Well, what am I going to talk to you about? All right, you guys have heard people talk to you about the fact that being plant-based is healthier for you, it's healthier for the planet, and of course, it's the animals appreciate it because they don't get mistreated and killed. But I know that there is at least one person out here in this audience who is panicking because all your life you've been told that you are an omnivore, that you are supposed to eat both meat and plant foods, and suddenly everybody here is telling you that you shouldn't eat only plants, and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's kind of like if someone came in and said, you know, oxygen kind of helps fires to burn, so maybe we should stop breathing. I mean, we don't think, but I like to breathe, and I kind of need to breathe. And so you may be thinking, wait a minute, okay, you know, cutting out meat will reduce my risk for cancer and heart disease, but won't I be missing something? Won't I, in some way, become unhealthy? Because I'm sure, like me, you've all heard these apocryphal stories from people. Oh, I went vegetarian, and I went vegan, and I was so weak, and I was so tired, I couldn't make it. My belief is that if you go vegan or vegetarian and you don't enjoy it, it's like sex. If you don't enjoy it, you're not doing it right. So what I'm here to explain to you guys is the why of all this. I'm here to let you know that, number one, you, like Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca, you've been misinformed. You are not an omnivore. You are an herbivore. The title of this lecture is, Are Humans Designed to Eat Meat? And just to give you a little heads up, the answer is no. This is a quote from the book of Genesis. God told our foreparents, you shall eat the plants of the field. It was good advice then, great advice now. All right, as we have heard time and time again, most recently from Dr. Greger, experts estimate that up to 80% of the major disease and premature death in this country could be prevented by making major changes in our diet and lifestyle. Well, given that fact, I want to submit to you that if you want to get the person who is a real danger to Americans, in addition to not voting for that guy, we also need to go after this one. All right, so how are we going to tackle this question of what we should be eating? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to look at mammalian carnivores, animals designed to eat meat. We're going to look at mammalian herbivores, those that are designed to eat plant foods. And then we're going to look at humans and see who we most closely resemble. And the reason this word metrics is up here is because one overriding theme I want you guys to keep in your mind is the idea of energy costs. The energy costs of procuring the food that you eat. Because clearly, in nature, if you expend more energy either looking for or procuring food that you can extract from that food, you don't survive. You starve to death. You die. And many of these ridiculous theories that people have put out about how humans somehow survived on hunting don't add up. The metrics don't work. It would require so much energy trying to hunt and find these animals that we would always be in an energy deficit and we wouldn't survive. That is in the absence of course, modern guns and this sort of thing. So, clearly, animals that are designed to eat this stuff have a very different issue to confront than animals that are designed to eat the other guys. The stuff on your left is anchored in the ground. It doesn't kick you. It doesn't spit at you. It doesn't try to stab you. And so it's pretty easy to eat it when you find it. Problem is it tends to be spread out over very, very vast distances. Now, the other guys typically don't want to be eaten. They're not like Charlie the Tuna saying, oh, eat me, eat me. They will run away, and if you catch them, they will kick you. They will try to stab you with their horns. They will do everything they can to get away from you. So Animals that are designed to eat plants are designed to forage. That means they are designed to cover very large distances over broad areas at very low energy costs. Why? Because again, if they expend more energy looking for the plant foods they eat than they can extract from those plant foods, they won't survive. On the other hand, animals that are designed to eat other animals are designed to run very fast, unfortunately, for them for short periods of time, to be able to tackle these animals, take them down, kill them without being injured themselves. And so we see that carnivores, the meat eaters, are optimized for predation. Herbivores, as I said before, are optimized for foraging. I've already covered this. Carnivores, because of this, carnivores do not go out and look for the biggest, strongest, most robust antelope on the savannah. Why? Because that antelope is likely to outrun them. If they catch up with it, it is likely to injure them so that they won't be able to hunt anymore. So instead, they look for the weak, the diseased, the defective, or the stupid ones, because those are the ones that are easier to catch. But the herbivores, they don't want the defective, the dried out, the broken down plants, because those plants are not nutritious. Instead, they look for lush, verdant, healthy, and one you can think of it as beautiful food. Well, this is important because when you have a creature that preys on other creatures using this herbivore mentality, that is looking for the biggest, the best, the healthiest, what ends up happening is that it depletes the gene pool of that prey species and drives them toward extinction. And yesterday, Dr. Ripple talked about these issues when he talked about human carnivory. When we go out and hunt, we pull out the biggest, we pull out the strongest, we pull the best genes out of the gene pool of these species that we prey on, and that is why we are destroying this earth and driving these animals towards extinction. So this brings up the concept of what I call the beauty paradigm and species destructions. Species survival in nature, as I said before, is fundamentally a question of energy in versus energy out. If you expend more energy obtaining food than you can get from the food, you don't hang around, you don't make copies of yourself. So for this reason, all true predator species look for what can be thought of as ugly food. They want food that requires a minimum expenditure of energy to procure. That is why they look for the lame ones, the old ones, the diseased ones, or the very young. They do not waste time chasing the fittest, healthiest members of their prey species because, again, they are more likely to either be outdistanced by those animals or even if they catch up to those animals, to be injured by them. And they also look for food that's already dead because they have the physiology that allows them to eat rotting tissue without any injury. And while we may find it disgusting to think of eating a rotting carcass, the fact is the energy content of a rotting carcass is exactly the same as that of a fresh one. The energy content of a massive tumor is exactly the same as healthy tissue. So they don't mind eating an animal with cancer because that animal is going to provide for them. Number one, it's going to be easier for them to catch. Number two, it provides the same amount of energy as an animal without a disease. And again, behaving in this manner means that they strengthen the gene pool of the species that they prey on by weeding out those that are less fit. As I said before, the herbivores seek the beautiful plants because those are the ones that are most nutritious. And when we humans, because of our herbivore mindset, that's the concept I want you guys to grasp, is that we have the mindset of an herbivore. We want food that is beautiful, that is robust, because we equate those qualities with health. But when we use that mindset to hunt other animals, we end up destroying the earth. By the way, eating the healthiest plants is actually a good thing because what happens is every time you poop, you spread the seeds of those plants and you help them multiply and spread. So let's look at a typical carnivore. This is a wolf. First thing I want you to notice is that they have a very streamlined shape so that they can run very fast. They have an armored front, meaning that when you look at their chest and shoulders, their shoulders are heavily padded. Their chest is enclosed in their rib cage so that as they're running up behind an animal, if that animal tries to kick them, it's likely to kick them on the padded shoulders or maybe kick them in the chest where they're protected by their breastbone and their ribs. The most vulnerable parts of this animal, the unprotected abdomen and the gonads, are all the way at the back where they're the most protected from injury. They have a very thick, muscular, sturdy neck, forward deployed weapons. If you've ever looked into the face of a snarling dog, you know exactly what I mean. Their top speed is roughly about, except for the cheetah, which is an extreme example, about 35 miles an hour, and that enables them to ambush and capture the sick, the injured, and the unwary. They have what's called a digitigrade stance. And by the way, there's going to be a mini exercise moment later on in this lecture. What digitigrade means is that they are up on their toes. Their heels are off the ground. Now, when you or I get ready to run, what do we have to do? We have to crouch down, get up on our toes, on your mark, get set, and then we run. These animals don't have to do that because they're already permanently on their toes. Their joints are already permanently flexed so that they are always ready to run. And the digitigrade stance also lengthens their legs, which helps them run faster. Their nails are sharp claws, which not only helps them to grapple with prey, but act like sprinter spikes and allows them to really grab the ground. They have the permanently flexed joints, as I mentioned before, which you guys will see in a minute. And that means, though, that they must use energy to resist gravity. So I want everybody who can stand without difficulty, stand up, please. Okay, now as you guys are standing here, straight, standing up, anybody having any problems? All right, now what I want you guys to do is crouch down like this and stay that way. All right, who's starting to feel the burn? Now it's your muscles that are resisting gravity and you can feel the difference. It takes a lot more energy to stay in this stance. All right, go ahead and sit down. That is why when carnivores are not actively chasing prey, they go lay down because it takes too much energy for them to stand. They have these skinny, lightened limbs that, again, reduces the energy cost of running. Their feet are reduced in size, their toes are reduced in number, and again, every time they lift their foot to move and run, that reduces the energy cost of running. Their senses are tuned to finding other animals, so their hearing is super acute, so they can hear animals moving. Their ears will swirl around like little radar dishes so they can help locate prey. Their eyesight is optimized for night vision. And it's also designed to follow movement. Now, I've heard people say, well, we have binocular vision like the carnivores, so that means that we should be carnivores. Well, that's kind of like saying a hummingbird has wings like an eagle and therefore it should be, killing prey. I mean, that's kind of silly. Binocular vision gives you depth perception. And clearly, carnivores, if they're going to be chasing something down, need to have good depth perception so they can come up on the prey and know where it is. However, we use our depth perception for a different purpose, and we'll talk about that when we come to humans. But in a human being, in the back of your fovea, there is a pit called back of your retina, forgive me, is a pit called the fovea. And in that pit it's lined with cones. Cones are the cells that give you very precise, discrete vision and color vision. Carnivores don't have a fovea. What they have along the back of their retina is called a linear streak. That is where the highest concentration of photoreceptors are located, and it allows them to detect and follow movement very easily. That is why if you drag something in front of a carnivore, like a cat or dog, they are duty-bound to chase it because it's moving across that linear streak and their brain tells them, run after it, chase it. Their night vision is more than 6 times better than ours. They have permanent night vision goggles. but it has very low resolution. That is why they hunt primarily at night. Now, you would know this from watching nature shows like I do, because these people spend months and months and months sort of to get a few feet of film showing hunting during the daytime, but the vast majority of hunting occurs at night. Why? Because prey animals are asleep. And if you can sneak up on a sleeping animal, it's going to require less energy to get that animal. Their sense of smell can be more than 100,000 times more powerful than ours. It's sensitive enough to detect and track prey at great distances, but this is what's really critical. It can also identify prey with cancers, infections, and metabolic disorders. There was a team that did an analysis of kills by a wolf pack up at a Canadian national park in Canada, and what they found was that 80% of the animals killed had some sort of disease. It was either cancer or some sort of metabolic infection. So the point that I want you guys to understand is that when carnivores go out to hunt, they're not just randomly chasing things. They can smell which animals are sick. Those are the ones they chase. Why? Because the sick ones are easier to catch. Less energy expended. We are actually learning to use this ability of carnivores to detect cancer by training them to detect people with melanoma recurrences, with colon cancer recurrences, and their noses are sensitive enough that they can detect tumors well before they would show up on a CAT scan. So again, the bottom line I want you to understand, not random. They're actually actively seeking the disease, the sick, the weakened. They are strengthening the gene pool.